biggest loser. So, John, given how passionate you are that Ted Cruz should have mentioned how he won in Iowa and deflated Donald Trump, was he the biggest loser?
I think that he's a loser. I don't think he's the biggest loser because, again, I think it's about what you can gain and what you can lose. And I think that Cruz is already losing coming out of Iowa. He should have used it to hit Donald Trump, but not because I think it would really help Cruz that much. Cruz has not gained much support at all, a couple of points since Iowa. And I don't think he's going to do well in New Hampshire. I don't think he's necessarily going to do well in South Carolina, although I have a couple of ideas how he could. But I think it's got to be Jeb Bush again, I think. Maybe Rubio, considering that this has been Rubio's week, sort of. I mean, he's gained like 4 or 5 points in New Hampshire. He's doing a little bit better. And this is not the performance he wanted coming into that, especially when he's trying to distinguish himself against Jeb Bush and Christie specifically, and maybe Kasich to a lesser extent. So I would say Jeb Bush. Like, if Jeb Bush was ever going to peak, when is it going to happen, if not tonight?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's it. He's done. Jeb Bush is going to finish, if the current polling holds, he's going to finish fifth. Okay? That's so mortifying.
That's embarrassing.
He was supposed to win New Hampshire and fairly easily, finishing fifth. I mean, that's like Joe Lieberman saying I have Joe-mentum after he finished fifth. No, you don't. You have Joe-mentum on your way out the door. And that's so. But like beating up on Jeb Bush and Ben Carson are too easy, and it's standard, right? I mean, every debate's the same for Ben Carson and Jeb Bush. Like, give me a break, right? Well, no, Rubio, he was supposed to have momentum here, and it was a Nixon-like performance as he profusely sweated out there. He couldn't handle Christie's attacks against him. He went to his standard talking points. He looked weak. He wilted under the lights here when he should have shined. I think Rubio is clearly the biggest loser.
Yeah, I agree with you. He did look nervous. His answers weren't strong. As soon as he was attacked for having well-rehearsed lines that were about 25-second sound bites, he got flustered. He didn't know how to handle that criticism. And then at that point, every single time you heard Rubio talk, you thought about him just regurgitating a talking point that he was trained to regurgitate. Yeah. So I agree. He's definitely the biggest loser of this debate.
Are you going to make it 3-1 there with Rubio, Jim?
No, Rubio is when he started sweating, and then when he repeated that, I mean, it was just that was the worst.
By the way, we didn't mention what a disaster Cruz was in this debate. Enough. I mean, John alluded to it with his inability to fire back against Trump. He stammered at times, didn't know the right answer, froze, and just wilted against Trump. Like, whenever Trump attacked him, he was like, oh, okay, Mr. Trump would like to build a wall, and I agree, but maybe I'd get him to build it. So it was a weenie fest out there.
Yeah.
I mean, Rubio lost, but only because he lost more than Cruz, Carson, and Jeb.
Yes.
It is amazing to see the effect Donald Trump has on the rest of the field. I mean, that they just fall into the scenery. Ted Cruz, just a shell of his former self at the last debate. Yeah, it is amazing. Trump would maybe be the last guy I would be afraid of at that stage, right? Because you know exactly what he's going to say, you know exactly how he's going to come at you, and he's got he's the biggest target. He is a target-rich environment, and they're such wimps they won't take advantage.
If I was debating against him, all I would do is ask him, okay, so you say that a good deal maker makes great deals. Define what a great deal is, right? Like, just ask him for a specific policy idea, and he won't have one. That's all you need to do.
It's amazing that they don't push the bully around.
Right.
Like, I would go right at the bully. I'd say, first of all, let's enjoy the comedy of this guy saying things like, I'm going to make the country so much better. What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. This guy's nothing but an empty suit. I mean, how do I know that? He tells me how rich he is and how fantastic he is at business. Then, Donald, why did you go bankrupt 4 different times? You know who does that? A loser.
And
right, like the loss you had in Iowa. Another case of a loser. Why doesn't anybody knock him down?
Why didn't Ted Cruz say that? You're always talking about winning. You didn't win in Iowa. That's where Ted Cruz should have said something. And, of course, he did it. That thing is crazy.
You know why?
Say that right after his closing statement. We'll win and we'll win. And just, like, whisper it into the mic.
Yeah.
Not in Iowa.
Right. And you know, I know why. I figured it out in the midst of these Republican debates that we've been covering, right? It's because the conservative person, that these are all conservatives, are authoritarians by nature. And sometimes if they have the upper hand and they feel a little alpha male-ish, they'll get the other guys to do this. But if you push them a little bit, they want to listen to authority.
Yeah.
They want to bow their head because that is their nature. Liberals are independent, right? So they don't necessarily listen to established authority, tradition. That's the definition of a liberal. Conservative is, I listen. I'm scared. I listen to authority. I just want to. Right? And that's why they don't attack the bully, and they all cower to Trump, and that's why they're going to lose to him.